So this is where the kind of conflict is popping up in my head right now, because obviously I've gone from a position of thinking, right, I'm maybe going to take on 1, 2 additional people that I can start sending off work to now being the complete opposite side of that, where I'm thinking I can do this all myself and I don't need to hire any external help. So a few weeks ago, I was actively talking to some freelance web designers, freelance web developers, basically looking to build up a small team of people within my business that I could start handing off certain parts of my client projects to. This week, I've done a complete 360 and that decision now is completely blown out of the water. The decision makes 100% sense for me and for my business, but in all honesty, it feels like a little bit of a niggling thing that's in the back of my mind. That's the whole point of this video, just to have a little talk through exactly why. So let me give you a little bit of context first, just to put things into a bit of perspective. I've been running my solo web design business now, Northern Source, for coming up to 4 years, doing it all completely on my own. If you're one of the handful of people that's actually watched any of my previous videos recently, you'll know that I've got some huge goals this year for the business. My primary goal this year is to hit £100,000 turnover for the first time in all the years that I've been running the business. A few weeks ago, what I was going around in my head about was the quickest way for me to reach that £100,000 target is clearly going to be for me to start taking on more projects than I would be able to handle on my own. Hence the reason why I started scouring LinkedIn for freelance developers, freelance designers, and I actually started to put some conversations into motion. And I had some really good conversations. I've always been using AI in some sort of capacity within my business. Looking at it, it's always been very surface level stuff. Using it to help me to write posts for LinkedIn, or using it to come up with a bunch of ideas when this thing's not quite whirring round and coming up with the ideas that I was looking for. Nothing in particular that I would sit there and say this is absolutely groundbreaking and it's going to change the world. Over the last few months, you've probably seen across most social media channels, everybody's talking about Claude, and a lot of people seem to be making a transition away from using ChatGPT, which from everything that I've sort of seen and everybody that I've spoke to and my own personal experience as well, ChatGPT has always seemed to be the number one. It seems to have shifted recently where everyone's on a mass exodus away from using ChatGPT and now moving towards using Claude and Claude Code. And I kind of jumped on the bandwagon a couple of weeks ago and I thought, right, if everyone's shouting about it, there must be something in it that's worth taking a look. And I'd tried Claude Code in the past, I'd tried Claude in the past, and never really got it, to be fair. Didn't think it was any better than ChatGPT. I sat there last weekend and I thought, right, stuff it. I'm going to put some time aside over this weekend and I'm really going to give it a lot of attention and see exactly what it can actually do. It completely changed everything for me last weekend. Something clicked for me in terms of actually seeing what Claude could do, and particularly what Claude Code could do, and how it would actually be a massive, impactful tool to use within my business that would allow me to actually scale the business towards this £100,000 target. And ultimately, what I figured out was those people that I was looking to pay to do certain things, to actually write code, to build the websites, to design the websites, were no longer really needed, because for the sake of a £90 a month subscription, what I was able to get it to do in just a weekend completely negated the reason for me to actually need to start looking to pay other people to do this type of work for me. The thing is, with Claude, even in the 2 weeks that I've been using it, I'm sure there's been maybe 4 or 5 significant releases and changes to what it can actually do. So the version of Claude that I'm actually using today is a million times better already than the one that I'd started using a couple of weeks ago. And with the pace of how everything seems to be going, it's just going to continue to compound and get better and better. And what we're going to see in 6 months' time compared to right now, it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. So after sitting down with it for, like I say, the full weekend, I managed to go from not having a clue how to use it to having a pretty good understanding of how it works. And I was able to, within the weekend, actually go from just an idea of a test project through to actually completing a test website build. Not necessarily with the AI doing everything for me. I was still very much steering the ship, which I think obviously still you need to do, but it was definitely taking on a lot of the heavy lifting, being able to write code and write code better than what I can probably do myself and in a lot quicker and more efficient way. Like I say, it was at that point that I just thought, why would I need to pay somebody else who can actually do that when I can pay £90 a month and get the AI to actually speed up the process, make it a lot better, so the delivery of the projects will be better for my clients. Why do I need to actually look for external help? And I guess that's when it kind of stopped being just about my business, and it got me thinking back to 2019 when I was a junior web developer. I'd never worked in an agency before. I took the decision to change careers from what I was doing in recruitment at the time. Started to send my CV out to a load of web design agencies in the area and a little bit further afield. I ended up getting an interview for a junior developer role with a web design agency in Lincoln. Went to the interview, got offered the job there and then. No sooner had I actually left that interview, I had another recruitment company that rung me up and said, there's another web design agency in Lincoln who are looking for a junior position. Would you be interested in going along to an interview? And that they decided they wanted to take me on as well. They offered me a little bit more money, a little bit more benefits. I ended up taking that job and working for that agency for 18 months. After that 18 months, I then applied to a design agency a bit closer to home, who I'd actually applied for maybe 3 or 4 times previously to that, who had rejected me every single one of those times, said you didn't have enough experience, you're not quite there yet in terms of what you can do. We don't think you're actually ready yet to actually step into a junior role. 18 months gone by working for an agency, then applied for the one a bit closer to home and ended up getting the job. Obviously they thought at that point in time I'd developed the experience that I needed and it was worth taking me on as a junior. And what it got me thinking about at this week was just how hard it was even back in 2019 before all of the AI sort of thing really kicked off so good. And just how hard it was back then to actually get into a starter position. This is where the conflict kind of is lying now in terms of the AI side of things and the position that certain people are going to find themselves in and how businesses are actually handling that. I'm not some sort of future predicting guru or anything along those lines. I'm just talking from what I have experienced now in this last week in terms of me and my business and the decision not to hire people versus using AI. And I'm tying that in with my experience of actually being in that position where I've changed careers, I've gone to apply for a junior role and how hard it was then, and now thinking about how hard it is going to be now for those entry level, so the bottom of the ladder sort of people who are just trying to get into these creative industries. Our businesses, the same as mine, small businesses where you might have one day been thinking about hiring staff and taking people on, to now are you in that position the same as I am, where I'm leaning more towards looking at paying £90 a month and having the AI do all of the work that potentially somebody who was going to cost a hell of a lot more money than £90 a month was going to cost. Let me know in the comments. I'd be really interested to know, if you're a small business owner, what you're kind of thinking about it along those lines. I think the way that ChatGPT, Claude, all these other AI tools are going, the barrier to entry of actually using them is just getting lower and lower and lower all the time. I mean, Claude does a fantastic job itself of, you can ask it questions, what can you do, what can you not do, can you help me write this skill to do this certain task? And effectively what I'd built up over the course of a weekend was me just talking to Claude, talking to the AI and asking it to actually build the skills that I needed it to build for it to do the work that I was looking for it to do. And like I say, this isn't some sort of speculation. This isn't me saying this is what I think is going to happen in the future. This is just me putting 2 and 2 together. 1 as a small business owner and 2 putting myself back in the shoes of when I was a junior developer back in 2019. And I think it's just going to get harder for people. Really, really hard for people to get into those lower position jobs, those starter jobs. And unfortunately, the people that are going into those jobs are young kids who are just coming out of college or coming out of university, potentially like I was a little bit later in life where I decided to do a career change. And look, I'm not trying to say don't go into those industries, don't become a web designer, don't become a graphic designer, don't become a writer, don't do all these creative things. I'm just trying to highlight that I can see there's going to be a lot more difficulty in terms of people getting onto those first rungs of the ladder. And the senior people You know, I think I'm not going to make any bones about it. I truly believe that I got into the web design industry at the perfect time, before all of this AI stuff was even a thing. And I'm very grateful for the fact that I got in it at the time that I did, because I've kind of moved up that ladder now. There's going to be a lot of people, there's going to be kind of like a bit of a squeeze where the junior positions are gone. The senior people, you know, the people who've got years and years of experience, the ones that are there to actually be the strategic mind behind projects, I think those people are safe for quite some time. And that was the whole point of the video, really. Just that observation that I've made based on my lived experience over this last week or so, and where I think things are going to go in the future, and maybe do we need to start talking about it a little bit more. So yeah, if you're a small business owner and you've maybe started looking into AI and you've actually figured out that AI can actually do the proper work that a person that you was thinking about employing could do, and you're now swaying more towards using AI rather than using employed labour or, you know, freelance labour or whatever it might be, let me know in the comments. I'd like to start a conversation about it. Maybe if you're in the position now where you're looking to get onto that first rung of the ladder as a junior developer or as a junior designer, again, let me know what you're kind of thinking about it. And other than that, I'll see you on the next video. If you haven't done so already, do me a favour and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you later. Ta-da!